Two. Oh. Well, I don't know where everybody is. There must be some kind of party that I didn't get invited to. Or maybe they all went to the beach. But I think we should wait maybe one more minute and then go ahead and get started with what we were going to do. Thanks to those who turned in their annotated bibliographies on time. We're going to be looking at a couple of those, as well as talking about the remaining chapters in the Nickel Boys. And then, I don't know, I'll be open to questions at that point about the paper, but I think probably we're coming down to the end where we really just have the paper in front of us. So I think after we talk about the book, to me anyway, that should be the focus of whatever time we have left in the semester. Let's just go ahead and begin with those who are here. I downloaded the annotated bibliographies that came in, and I removed the names from them, and I wanted to look at those. And it would be helpful if people unmuted themselves, because I'd like to, people to participate in the feedback instead of me doing all of the talking. So please do that. So if you recognize this as yours, don't be embarrassed. It's a good job. Like I said, I took the names off of it. So first of all, as I look at this, it looks like the sample annotated bibliography that I provided. So thumbs up for that. I have a couple of things about the citation portion. And the first thing is, so this first source, I believe, is a print source, because there's no URL, but this person has provided the volume number and all of that, which is, very, very good. That's what you're meant to do. But, and I don't know what the circumstance is here. If you are reading a print journal online, like if you're reading the New York Times newspaper, but you're reading the online version, you should now treat it like an online source, not a print source. It didn't used to be that way, but now it is. So if you recognize this as yours, to be absolutely correct, unless you have this journal, like you actually got your hands on it somehow, and maybe you did. I mean, it's the Journal of Social Economics. It's, you know, it's fairly widely known as these journals go. You should include the online information associated with it. But the summary is fine, and this looks correct. Second one is an online source, and I am assuming this is the URL, or this is what you entered as a search term. I'm not really certain what this part is. I think it's a URL. I didn't try entering it. One other thing about this citation too, it has the publication date, which is fine, but remember it should have at the very end the date that you looked at it, the date that you accessed it. So I'm making up a date here. Something like that, is what should be at the end. The next one is from Forbes. This is all correct. And again, the only thing here is that I would say put the date of access down here. And the fourth one, same deal. So this is very, very good. Whoever is the owner of this one, it's very good. Couple of very minor things that I would have had you do differently, but you don't need to go back and change those up now. Okay, well done. I'm going to close this one out now. Unfortunately, because I'm recording, I have to stop. If you're going to be listening to the recording, I have to stop the recording right now, because otherwise I can't minimize my screen. I probably can, but I'm a boomer using technology. So just how is that? Does that need to be bigger? Yeah, it does. I can already tell. Okay, so let's have a look here. I'm going to let you guys weigh in on this. Tell me anything that you think we should ask this person or suggest to this person to change. I'm doing all the talking again, so I want you guys to weigh in here. It's got the author's name. Okay, then I think this is the article, but it's missing something.
Yeah, quotation marks.
Yeah.
If it helps at all, I learned when I was younger that you use quotation marks for stuff that you would be able to staple to a wall, and then italics for other things like books. So
That's
I don't
really
know
good.
wise, but like it helped me because I'm a visual person.
I have literally never heard that. I've been teaching 35 years. I've literally never heard that, but it's kind of elegant and brilliant at the same time.
Why, thank you.
Although some smartass is going to say, but you could staple a book to the wall if you had a big enough staple gun, but I get what you're talking about. I totally get it. Okay. Carrying on, this person has italicized the thing that they probably couldn't staple to the wall. But there should be a period there, no problem. Independent digital news and media, I'm not really sure what that information is. We already know, unless it's meant to be part of the title of the site, I don't really know what that's doing there. This is obviously the date the article was published. because I don't believe this person looked at it in 2018. Perhaps they did. We have the URL here, which looks like it's in the right format. It doesn't have too much extra stuff. It's kind of a long one. And what's missing here? Right here where the cursor is.
Date.
The date that this person actually accessed it. So I'm just going to make up the same date again. I'm not making up the date. There was an April 29th, 2020. I was there. I saw it with my own eyes. But I'm going to assume this is the date the person accessed it. Okay. So that's kind of fixed up. All right, this is fine. He also, or they also, I don't know who did this. They also tie the article to Elwood's character in the book, which, as you know, you heard me say in the first one, I really appreciate. Okay, question for the group. What order should these sources be placed in? What order should they be placed in?
Alphabetical.
Alphabetical by author's last name, or if there's no author last name, by the article title. Okay, so the first item in our list begins with an O. So knowing the English alphabet, that's unlikely to be first. And in fact, Associated Press Archive, Derek Black, even Elliot Kleinberg, the first one should actually be the last one in this list. And that may seem like a minor thing, but it's actually important for the works cited page. Now, normally, we would not capitalize this title, Black People Arrested in Swimming Pool, but that may be the way it is presented. And so if it's presented that way, either on the website or in the search that you turn up, go ahead and do it that way. But this kind of looks like a headline from a newspaper. So we're going to let that sit. I am, though, frankly confused about the rest of this because it's accessed, it looks like, on YouTube, but it's attributed to the Associated Press. I am a little confused by the information here. A lot of things in the Associated Press archive do not have authors. This is a newspaper archive. You know what an archive is. It's basically a big information storage facility. Sometimes it's an actual place. A lot of times it's digital now. A lot of the information in there, and this is from 1964. I'd like to say that's from before I was born, but I think that's actually the year I started kindergarten.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry?
Sorry.
Oh, okay. So this is a long time ago, which is why I'm guessing that this incident is explained on YouTube somewhere. It might be good to look at that video at some point. But this is in St. Augustine, Florida, and you know a lot of the action in Nickel Boys takes place in Florida. And in 1964, I think the book opens, I believe, in 1963. So you know it's very, very timely that way. And then this last one seems completely correct. Derek Black, why schools can't put segregation behind them. Of course, this person needs the quotation marks and the date of access down at the end, but otherwise it's fine. And same with this one as well. We need to put the quotation marks. I said exclamation though, didn't I? Don't answer, I did. I know I did. Okay, very good. Okay, so this one has some tinkering that needs to be done to it, but overall, the summaries are good. They are tied directly to the book. I think whoever's this is, you will definitely be able to use this material in your paper if you choose to. Okay, so we're gonna stop the sharing.
Professor Eastman, one other
Sure.
thing about the source that looked like it had YouTube in it.
Uh-huh.
If you go to MLA Purdue,
Uh-huh.
uh, or owl.purdue.edu, you can find how to correctly cite a YouTube video. It's in there. You can also learn how to like cite a tweet. So they have it. So I don't know if that's the correct citation for that
I
source.
I I would wonder for that source if you couldn't just cite the Associated Press archive, because presumably the archive is online.
Yeah, I just
So I'm not sure how the YouTube comes into it, because it's now, if it's a YouTube story, and there are lots of journalists who work on YouTube, if it's a YouTube story, then obviously, yeah, as Isla suggests, then you would cite the way Purdue Owl tells you to cite a YouTube video. But what I'm guessing, and it's just a guess, is that this was somebody responding to an article on YouTube or talking about the article on YouTube. Not really sure. That was the one that just sort of threw me. Okay, we're going to look at one more. As I said, this one does need work. It came in kind of incomplete. And I'm going to enlarge this a little more. So looking at the first one, it looks mostly correct, although the sort of different font sizes and stuff are a bit of it throws us off a little bit. I think we put some spaces in there. I think we get a clearer look at it. And so this one doesn't look too confusing. Here's the article title. Here's the URL. There's the date of access. We have an author. Okay, fine. In the second one, Raising Self-Reliant Children, we have the article title correct. Psychology Today should be italicized, of course. I also converted this one from another format, so some of this formatting may have been lost in the conversion. I'm not saying that the person who did this assignment forgot the formatting, but it may have been lost in that conversion. This URL looks like it would probably work. We're missing a date of access here. Of course, what we're missing in all of them is the summary that would normally accompany this. So these aren't really so much, this isn't an annotated bibliography, it's just a list of some sources. The third one is just by Natalie. Now, I don't know, maybe Natalie is a pop star who only uses one name, like Keisha or Shakira or Beyonce. Who knows? But I'm guessing there's another name that goes with Natalie. It's just a guess. I'm going out on a limb there. Can you go to prison if you're under 18 is the title of the article. Obviously, Prison Insight, again, should be italicized. And apologies if I messed up your formatting by converting this from RTF. And the URL looks correct, and there's the date. Okay, so we don't have a lot to complain about there. I don't know for this last one, Saba. It's the same as up top. I'm assuming there's another name that comes with this that got left out. Right About is not a site I'm familiar with, but I'm sure it exists. And again, so the citations are mostly correct. I'm just not, without the summaries, it's not really an annotated bibliography. Looking at the topics, racism in schools and imprisonment under the age of 18, those obviously connect to the book very directly. So congratulations there. But I'm really interested in this idea of raising self-reliant children and how that connects to the book, because one awful side effect, I think, of the Nichols School is that a lot of the students who survive it, and the Nichols School is not an actual school, but it is based on a real school. And there were, you know, who can tell how many across the US. I had told you that there was one in Whittier where they're building luxury condos right now. The students who survived these schools had to become extremely self-reliant, because one thing that the schools taught them was that they can't trust anybody and they shouldn't expect help from anybody. And that's a horrible lesson, I think, to teach children. But that's one of the lessons that the schools did unintentionally teach. So I'll be very interested to see if this person includes this source about self-reliant children in their paper and how they utilize it. So those are 4 that came in before the deadline. I'm sure there are others that came in before the deadline. I'll have to look in the inbox on Moodle when we're done here. Okay. I'm just looking down the list now of who's here. And it looks like we have Savannah, Abdullah, Adel, and Faisal and Ayla helping out. I'm glad I'm recording this because I think a lot of people are going to want to refer back to this. Okay. Unless there are questions about the annotated bibliography, I am interested then in moving into the book next. I had an email exchange with one class member yesterday who was, how am I going to put this? There's a big surprise twist in the book that is still ahead of us, and this person uncovered it and just wanted to make sure that they had it right, and they did. And yeah, I admit that when I read this book the first time, I did not see that twist coming, and I was as surprised by it as this other classmate was. But let's go chapter by chapter, and please speak up whenever you have something, or even if it's just a question. But chapter 13 that starts on 159. Now, remember I said that one of the things this author does is he has us jumping around from place to place, time to time. And a long stretch of the book does happen in the Nichols School, but periodically we're going forward in time to New York, to Elwood, or the person we know as Elwood, and what he's doing in New York. This is one of those chapters. Elwood's in New York. He has his own business now. He owns a moving company, and he goes to the New York City Marathon. What is a marathon?
A marathon is like sports, like everybody running.
Yes,
Kind of athletic.
it's extremely athletic. It's
Hmm.
it's a race, 26.2 miles, 26 miles in kilometers. I don't know, maybe 50 kilometers. It's a long way to run, especially if nothing's chasing you. I don't understand it myself. My sister-in-law does it every year here in Los Angeles, but the one in New York is one of the biggest in the world, maybe the biggest. A lot of the people who participate are professionals and get cash prizes. But Elwood says he's not really that interested in those runners. He's more interested in the ones who are bringing up the rear, the ones that finish last. And I think this fits in with Elwood's character. But I would like to hear one of you try to explain why why is it you think Elwood is more, why Elwood cheers for the ones who are coming in last and not the ones coming in first? Why do you think that is?
Can I go?
Sure. Yeah.
I don't know if it's right, but I'm thinking it's because the people who are winning, they already have like a lot of support,
Mm-hmm.
and the people who are coming in last, people are kind of just like forgetting about them.
Mm-hmm.
And he knows, like when he was growing up, he didn't really have support, so he wants to do that for other people.
I think you said it. I think you said it beautifully. Yeah. I think you said it exactly right. You know, I don't know if you're familiar with the expression, you know, the underdog, but he is an underdog and he identifies with the other underdogs, right? And so this makes perfect sense to us. Or should, you know, that he would be more interested in those runners who run all that way and then don't have anybody waiting for them at the finish line, right? Nobody's helping them out. Perfectly in keeping with his character. Another thing that Elwood / narrator notes about this race is how for one day in New York, it doesn't seem like people hold their differences against each other. And he looks in the crowd, and it's a perfect panorama of New York City. I have all kinds of different people there, rich people, poor people, athletes, non-athletes, every race and denomination is there. It's just for one day, but he's very moved by it, and it's the reason that he comes out to the race. I'll say one more thing about a marathon. We use the word marathon as a euphemism sometimes, or maybe it's a metaphor for something that takes a long time, right? We often use the expression, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. When we talk about your education, we say it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. What this means is you can't be in too much of a hurry because you use up all your energy in a quick burst and then you don't have any left. The whole trick to running the marathon, apparently, I'm not going to do it, but the whole trick to running a marathon apparently is to pace yourself, conserve your energy. Don't go too fast at the start so you have energy left to get you through the whole thing. And so we use this euphemism a lot. And if you think about, well, not just Elwood's life, but any human being's life, that's good advice. You know, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon, right? Don't get too impatient. Don't expect things to happen overnight that can't happen overnight. It's a good metaphor for life, but it's also a metaphor for social and racial justice, at least in the United States. It is not going to happen overnight. I mean, slavery has been abolished for over 150 years, and this marathon of Black civil justice is still going on, right? It did not happen in a sprint. Abraham Lincoln signs a paper and everything's fixed. No, the reparation is still happening. So anyway, I just thought Whitehead was very, very clever. The author of the book, Whitehead, very, very clever to focus on the New York Marathon in this chapter. There's a lot going on in New York all the time. There's a lot of things he could have chosen, but this is the novelist's skill. Is he chose the right event to post Elwood in. After the race, Elwood goes to a bar he used to go to with his employees back when he had a smaller number of them, and he runs into somebody from the nickel days, Chicky Pete. Tell me about Chicky Pete. And I would love to know how he got that nickname. Tell me about him. What kind of person is he? Are things going great for him? Hello? Hello? Is this thing on? My
Things are not going great for
country.
him.
Oh, hi. You are there. Things are not going great for him. Can you elaborate a little bit?
I think he was like, what is it called? Like an alcoholic.
Yes.
And he said he's barely been sober. And he was asking Elwood for a job. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that lays it out pretty well. He's 30 days sober out of a rehab, and he meets Elwood in a bar. Okay, so he's obviously not very committed to his sobriety. He asked Elwood for a job. He asks Elwood, do you have a card for your business? And Elwood does, but he doesn't give him one. Now, there's a big reason for this. And then there's a secondary reason for it. Why doesn't he give Chicky Pete one of his business cards? Why do you think he doesn't give him a business card? Okay, well, I feel like Savannah and I are just having a conversation about the book ourselves, and the other classmates aren't participating. So let me say this. One reason to not give Chicky Pete a business card is that he doesn't want Chicky Pete calling him up asking for a job again. He doesn't want to hire him. Chicky Pete seems obviously unreliable. But the other big reason is the business cards say Elwood Curtis on them. And the person that we know as Elwood in New York isn't Elwood. It's not him, it's somebody else. It's Turner, his friend from Nickel. Turner has taken on Elwood's identity. This is not sci-fi. We're going to find out soon why. Okay. So Elwood, in quotes, doesn't give Chicky Pete a card because Chicky Pete knows he's not Elwood. And this is going to raise a lot of questions that fake Elwood doesn't want to deal with. Okay, chapter 14 that begins on 169 is about a big inspection. And this is one of the crucial scenes in the whole book. Most of the chapter is just dedicated to all the work the boys do to make the school look good for the inspection. For 2 days, all classes are canceled. The classes weren't teaching anybody anything anyway. All classes are canceled, and the boys just work around the clock fixing up the school. They fix the basketball court. They fix the bleachers. They paint the buildings. They fix the floor. They install a boiler system for heating that was delivered 2 years ago and never put in. And most importantly, the boys get new clothes and better food. This is the kind of food they were supposed to be getting all along, real food, but the school was selling the food in the town and the boys weren't getting it. Well, now they're actually getting it because the inspection's coming. But the boys know, they're told that if they mess up the inspection in any way, they're going to go out for ice cream, right? They're going to go to the White House and get beat. So nobody wants to mess up. Everybody wants the inspection to go well. But Elwood has a surprise in mind. What is Elwood planning to do? And this is real Elwood. What is Elwood planning to do that's a big surprise in this chapter?
He's gonna tell one of the he's gonna give one of the inspectors the letters, like all the things he's written when he goes outside to work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's gonna blow the lid off Nickel, he thinks. He's written this long letter explaining all the awful things that go on there, including how the food and supplies, the materials that get sent to the Nickel School are being taken out into the community and sold. This is a crime, right? This is not just, oh, you're not using these materials as intended. That's a major felony. And he thinks he's going to get the school leader sent to jail with this. Now, at the end of chapter 12, chapter 12 is the story of the boy that ran away. But they say in that chapter, there are 4 ways to leave Nickel. And then Elwood says he's going to come up with a 5th way. He's going to get rid of Nickel. And he thinks this letter is going to do it. He wants to hand it to one of the inspectors himself, but he's too scared. So Turner does it for him. Turner does it for him. What is the result of this? How does this all end up? The school obviously doesn't get closed down. The bosses obviously don't get sent to jail. How does it end up?
They beat up Elwood and then they make him self-isolate.
Yeah.
What it's called?
Yeah. They take him for another beating down, going out for ice cream. They give him another beating, and yeah, they put him, and I like that you said self-isolate, because that language from this pandemic has seeped into our everyday conversation now. They made him social distance. No, but in all seriousness, they put him in an isolation cell that had been outlawed back in, I think they said in the 1940s. They made this illegal, and they haven't been doing it very often, but they put Elwood in there. And we can see that Elwood is having these almost like visions of his own death, that he's going to die in the cell. Chapter 15 that starts on 185 is a short chapter, and it brings us up more or less to the present day of the story. I think it's 2014. And now we know that Elwood, fake Elwood, is married to a woman named Millie, who knows him as Elwood at this point. And really, this chapter is just about his relationship with her, and it seems like a very normal and a very healthy relationship. He says at one point in the chapter that the thing that Millie really does for him is she chips away all the rough spots, right? She's, making him a more normal human being. She even got him to quit smoking, right? So there's not a lot of plot action in this chapter, but it's just explaining how his relationship with his wife has been very beneficial for him, as it should be. Finally, chapter 16, on 191, they escape. Turner comes to him in his cell, in his isolation cell, in the middle of the night, lets him out because the housemaster is drunk asleep again, lets him out, and basically says, we have to go now, because I heard somebody say they're going to take you out to the iron rings, like they took Griff, the boxer, and they're going to kill you. The only reason they haven't killed you yet is because they thought the school leaders were expecting to get in some trouble. And when that trouble doesn't materialize, then they assume that they're home free. So they're going to take Elwood out back and literally kill him. Turner has heard this information secondhand. He always seems to know everything that's happening. And so they escape. They, just a couple chapters ago, we heard all the reasons that boys don't normally escape, which is it's almost impossible to get away successfully. They go to one of the houses that they were working on, and one of the house with the basement that they cleaned out, and they know there were 2 bicycles there, remember? And so Turner and Elwood, even though Elwood's weak from the beating still, they take these bicycles and they're just trying as hard as they can to get away from the area. And they see a van from the Nickel School come by. And of course, it's Harper and one of the other housemasters. They ditch the bikes, run away, and Elwood is shot and killed by Harper. And this is doubly cruel because Harper, just a few chapters ago, was described to us as one of the white people who didn't have a prejudice against the black students, didn't treat the black students badly by the standards of the school. And yet when it comes down to it, he's more than willing to shoot somebody that he's been friendly with just because they are running away from the cruelty of the school. And so I mean, this kind of paints a picture of the people in that time, in that place, as simply not being trustworthy. It's people that you couldn't trust if you were black. This chapter opens up with a couple of paragraphs too about how the white men who worked in and ran the school were descendants of slave owners or people who knew how to keep slaves in line, people who had been in charge of inflicting punishment on slaves, and their grandsons are not any different. They're the same type of personality. Okay, so that's a lot. Finally, we come to the epilogue, and that's on page 202. And here the truth comes out. Elwood tells Millie his real name, and it kind of just happens. There's an interview with one of the former directors or assistant directors of the school, Mr. Earl, the one who got poisoned and almost died. And he's denying that he ever beat any of the boys. We just gave them discipline and a new start in life, all of this, blah, blah, blah. And Millie says, that old man beat those boys. And Elwood, fake Elwood, blurts out, well, I was at that school. And that's when the story comes out that his name isn't Elwood Curtis, it's Jack Turner. This is kind of the climax of the book, but it feels like this book has multiple high points, but this is definitely one. And it's interesting that he is on his way to Tallahassee because the people that were excavating the graveyard in the prologue when we first started the book are now reporting their findings, and some of the former inmates of Nickel are going to be there to tell their side of the story. And no black graduates of the school were going to go, so Jack Turner goes. And that's how the story concludes. So it kind of starts with the discovery of a secret graveyard, and it kind of ends with those secrets coming to light, but justice is still a long ways off. This is a story with a lot of cruelty. Oh, okay. I hope that wasn't a cat. I hope that was
It's
a
a
door.
cat.
Oh, okay. Is it okay?
It is okay. She just complains a lot.
Oh, okay. As long as you're not mistreating the cat. We've just been reading about boys getting whipped and put in isolation. I don't want you to, take it out on the poor cat. Anyway, this is a book that can be very difficult to read because of the cruelty in it. But I think it's an important book. And I know it was difficult for some people for language, reasons. A lot of slang, you really have to know a little bit about recent American history and a bit of the speech patterns of the American South. There's very offensive language in here, language that, would make us kind of wonder whether this was an appropriate book to assign, but I think it absolutely is, or I wouldn't have assigned it. There's a lot going on in a very short 210-page book. So, friends, I think that's where we have to leave it today. I think that's where we have to leave it. Here's what I'm asking of you, and I'm going to send a reminder email out for Tuesday, our last meeting. Would you please write a short statement, 1 paragraph statement or shorter, telling me what your paper is going to be about? I know it's going to be a summary and a response. I'm interested in the response portion. What is the approach you're going to take in your response? What is your response to the book going to be? How you're going to tie your research into the response? Not a long explanation, a paragraph, okay? Do you hear the noises coming out of my face?
Yes.
Oh, all right, very good. I just want to make sure. Okay. So I'll send that out in the reminder email. Also, please, if you haven't, I got a thumbs up from Faisal. Thank you, sir. If you have time, sometime between now and the 11th of May, please do, not if you have time, without fail, please do the online course evaluation. I sent information on that yesterday in an email that I found in an old email. And I only ask you to do it because if not, they'll keep harassing me by email. Your students haven't done the evaluation. Your students haven't done the evaluation, blah, blah, blah. Okay, is that good?
Yes.
Very good. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you.
It looks like the weather is going to be beautiful, but there's really no place for us to go. But it's going to be a beautiful weekend. Please get to work on your papers. And I hope, as I always say, that you and your families remain well. And I will talk to you Tuesday. Email me any questions, problems, or anything else. Okay. Bye, everyone.
Professor?
Bye.
Yes. Bye. Yes, sir. Somebody asked me.
Yeah, I would like to talk to you.
Okay, not a problem. We'll let the others go.
Yeah, and can you stop the recording?
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.